Hello, everybody. Hello. This is Gerald Salenti, and it's Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. All those twos in there. 22020, ba 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 ba. Hey, remember when it was going to be the Roaring 20s? Yep, the Roaring 20s after the COVID war began in January 2020, the year of the rat, Chinese Lunar New Year. And everybody said, oh, it's going to be party time now after they stopped with these lockdowns. Never happened. Never happened. Right? Because they only made bad situations worse. Anyway, on to the economic front. Stocks, they were down all across the board. Asia, Europe, US. This is from CNBC. This is the way they say it. Stocks on Thursday posted their third straight daily decline as mounting fears that the Federal Reserve aggressive rate hikes will push the economy into recession and dented risk appetite for investors. You know what that is? Yeah. Risk appetite for investors, fucking gamblers. This is bullshit. Oh, and aggressive rate hikes? What aggressive? You got inflation at 8.5%, and you got big deal. You got a 3.25, 3.50 interest rate. And again, if you borrow money from the international mafia, the International Monetary Fund, you got to raise your interest rates at least 1% above inflation. So we should be at 9.5%. Again, this is all artificially propped up with cheap money, stimulus money of $8 trillion to fight the COVID war. We're fighting the COVID war. We're fighting the COVID war. We're locking down your business, but here's a couple of pennies. Well, fighting the COVID war. And the bigs will take over more as we fight the COVID war. Yep. The S&P slid 0.8%. The NASDAQ was down 1.4%. Bop. Getting deeper and deeper into bear territory, down over 20%. Bond yields surged on Thursday with the yields of the 10-year and 2-year Treasury notes notching fresh multi-year highs, hitting their highest levels since February 2011. Yep. Remember how bad things were back then? Oh, and what else? October 2007. And in November 2007, I took out the domain name, the Panic of 08. And that's where we're at. It's panic time. Thursday's move came on Fed Wednesday, blah, 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 blah. All right. Other central banksters worldwide follow the Fed's lead, implementing their own sizable hikes overnight. Yeah, bullshit. You had the UK, the Bank of England, they raised their key interest rate by only 50 basis points to 2.25. And what do they have? An inflation rate running around 10%. 9.1 it came in. It was like over 10 the month before. So there's nothing. So that's the bullshit that they shove down your throat. Oh, by the way, Turkey, yeah, they lowered rates again. But other central banks worldwide follow the Fed's lead, implementing their own sizable hikes overnight. So that's the bullshit. Turkey actually cut their rate by 100%. Yep. 100 basis points, 100%, 100 basis points. And again, we've been writing about what's going on in Turkey, what it means. It's in your Trends Journal, all of this. The new Trends Journal came out on Tuesday. It's over 170 pages. The pandemic is over, said the clown playing the president of the United States. Yeah, because the midterms are coming. And they're going to do everything they can to pump this thing up artificially. But again, as we said, if they don't pump it up now, they're going to pump it up before the 2024 elections, guaranteed. So the Japanese yen, that thing is slumping too. It's at a 24-year low. So here's the news on that the Japanese yen jumped across the board on Thursday after monetary authorities intervened in the foreign exchange market to boost the battered currency for the first time since 1998. This is the bullshit fucking crap they shove down your throat. Monetary authorities. Hey, I'm an authority. I'm some fucking bastard that's in the bankster system, and I'm an authority. You're just a piece of shit. And don't forget, the queen is dead. And hey, maybe 4 days she'll rise again from the dead. I mean, after all, she's the queen. Hey. That's the language that they use. So we look up to these scumbag bastards and bitches that are fucking us up big time. This is the Wall Street Journal today. Fed lifts rates, signals more, denting stocks. They go on to say, 1 year ago, the Fed was signaling rates might stay near zero for another year, and it was purchasing Treasury and mortgage securities to provide additional stimulus. Yeah. Remember that? Additional stimulus to artificially prop up the markets and let the bigs buy everything. Week after week, we had article after article in the Trends Journal, bigs getting bigger, getting all this cheap money and buying up everything, artificially inflating the economy and artificially inflating the equity markets. Yep. Then here's more fucking bullshit coming from the Wall Street Journal, Nick Tamareos. Bullshit. You ready? Officials misjudged the strength of the economy's rebound from the pandemic and how high inflation would rise. Official pieces of shit. It's temporary. It's transitory. It's transgendatory. Inflation. They knew it was going up. They lied. And they fucked around saying they had a 2% inflation rate, and it would hit that, they would raise rates. They have caused this problem. They're the ones we should get rid of the Federal Reserve. They're as federal as Federal Express. Oh, and by the way, read your article in the Trends Journal about Federal Express and what it means and where the economy's going. Then they go on to bullshit more. No one knows whether this process will lead to a recession, meaning the higher rates, or if so, how significant that recession will be. Bullshitted Jerome Powell, the fuckface who said that inflation was temporary and transitory. And now he's saying no one knows. Fuck off. I know. I'm a trend forecaster. I can see the facts. I don't swallow your bullshit like the fucking prostitutes on CNBC, ABC, NBC, Fox, NPR, and FUCK mainstream media. But Powell said it. The officials said it. So swallow the official shit. How dare you don't swallow my shit? Be a good American. Swallow the shit from the authorities. Home sales extend string of declines. Blow me away. Never would have known. In your Trends Journal, history before it happens. We've been saying this. And where is the worst going to come? It's there. It's not going to be in housing. U.S. housing markets slowed for the 7th straight month in August, the longest stretch decline since 2007, the year before the Panic of 08. And now hear this. The International Monetary Fund Manager Director, Kristalina Georgieva, said she expects slowing growth from higher borrowing costs next year will make it feel like a recession for millions of people. Quote, increased interest rates will bite, and we will see the impact on growth. For hundreds of millions of people, it will feel like a recession, so buckle up. For hundreds of millions of people, how about for billions of people? But not you, Georgiavina, or Georgia Crystalina, whatever your name is. No, not for the rich. You won't feel the recession. You don't give a fuck if gas is $3.98 or $5.75. Pennies, not even pennies to you. But for the hundreds of millions, buckle up, bend over, take it up the ass. Rate hikes in the U.S. have also helped strengthen the dollar, which makes it harder for countries to service dollar-denominated debt. No shit. Again, what's going to happen in the emerging markets? You're going to see them submerge. Again, we are on a crisis. This is more than socioeconomic, it's geopolitical. Again, this week's Trends Journal, by the way, is over 170 pages. Well, I can't read 170. You read what you want to read. It's a magazine. And you got flip pages and everything. And you can print out the PDF. For the grand total of $2 a week. The IMF warns there will be more, quote, people on the street. Yeah, no kidding. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. You're going to see the new world disorder. People are going to be taken to the streets everywhere, and they're going to be living on the streets, fighting against lack of basic living standards, crime, violence, and government corruption. That's the number one. That's what got us all in this place. Government corruption. If we don't bring inflation down, this will hurt the most vulnerable because as explosion of food and energy prices for those that are better off is inconvenience, for the poor people, tragedy. So we think poor people first. Yeah, attacking inflation. Yeah, now they're out of jobs, the poor people. Then she goes on to say, this year is tough. Next year, tougher. Why? Because of the shock upon shock upon shock. In just a short 3 years, the pandemic. Not the pandemic, the politicians. Pandemic didn't do it. They locked down all these businesses, destroyed the lives and livelihoods of billions of people with not a scintilla of scientific evidence, only political science. No real science. Stand 6 feet apart. No, where in Europe will stand 2 meters apart. Put on your mask when you eat, when you don't eat, but take it off when you eat when you're on an airplane. Because the COVID doesn't get you when you're eating or drinking. And when you walk into a restaurant, put on that mask. But when you sit down, you can take it off. They made up this shit. How about the plastic glasses or plexiglass everywhere? COVID doesn't go under it, doesn't go around it, doesn't go over it. Not the pandemic. It is the politicians. And what else? She says, and Russia's invasion pushing energy and food prices higher. Total. Absolute bullshit. Yeah. Not the Russian invasion, the sanctions put on Russia by the United States and NATO. This war would have been over months ago if you didn't send billions and billions of dollars to keep bloodying the killing fields. But this is the bullshit they put out. Oh, she said it on the Cartoon News Network. Yep. What else we got here? Schneider, a $9.5 billion deal for software group Aviva. Aviva, yeah. Walgreens acquires rest of Shields. Yep, for $1.37 billion. Fairdeal Industrials spends $200 million on majority stake in luxury food retailer, Italy. I'm just mentioning this because the bigs keep getting bigger. The bigs keep getting bigger. And by the way, don't subscribe to the Trends Journal. You're better off going to the toilet paper record, the New York Times. This is their business section. Ready for the stories in the business section? The business section is 1, 2, 4 pages filled with pictures, right? Filled with pictures. Look at this. Right? These are the stories. An early voter fraud crusader has become a star of the right, riding a wave of mostly unfound electoral skepticism. That's the big story. Next to it, CGI is back, giving stage to the Clintons. After a 6-year hiatus, the Clintons' global initiative returned to New York City this week. What the fuck does that have to do with business news? What does that have to do with business news other than propaganda? Yeah. This is from Wall Street Journal. The Anxiety of Traveling for Business Again by Alexandra Samuel. As I loaded my laptop, iPad, toiletries back in my carry-on bag after passing through airport security, blah, 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 blah. And how, that we're going to be traveling again. Business travel. But the flip side of excitement is anxiety. And my return to business travel has brought plenty of it. Do I still take taxis or limos? Or will I commit to car rentals to avoid COVID risks and the nauseating experience of being a masked passenger? That's the shit that they're selling. Yeah, buy a rented car, stay home. On to the Ukraine war. This is very serious and it's just heating up. The West wants to destroy Russia. That's Putin's thing. He said the purpose of the West is to weaken, divide, and ultimately destroy our country. They're already directly saying that in 1991, they were able to split the Soviet Union. And now the time has come for Russia itself, and that it should be disintegrated into many mortally warring regions and regions. He goes on to say, we talk about the aggressive policy of a number of the Western elites who are striving with all their might to maintain their dominance. And for this purpose, they're trying to block or suppress any sovereign independent centers of development in order to further brutally impose their will on other countries and nations to plant their fake values. I consider it necessary to take the following decisions. They are fully adequate to the threats we face, namely to protect the motherland, its sovereignty and territorial integrity, to ensure the security of our people and people of the liberated territories. And he goes on. We wrote about this in great detail. The quotes coming from bullshit Blinken, the little Dalton boy and Harvard boy, the daddy's boy, a warmongering freak. Every war this guy loved. And Lloyd Austin, our Defense Department head, that before he came from the Defense Department, he came from Raytheon, the second largest defense contractor. Both of them saying they want to weaken Russia. This has been going on forever. Not forever, ever, but for the last, since my time, when they had us hiding under desks in case an atom bomb went off, dropped by the Russians. And again, we got more details. They're going to be a lot more in the Trends Journal. Russia is at war not only with Ukraine, but the collective West. This is from their defense minister. I cannot but emphasize the fact that today we are at war not so much with Ukraine and the Ukrainian army as with the collective West, he said. At this point, we are really at war with the collective West, with NATO, vice versa. As we talk about this, we mean not only the weapons that they supplied in huge quantities. Naturally, we find ways to counter these weapons. We have in mind, of course, the Western systems that there exist, quote, communication systems, information processing systems, reconnaissance systems, satellite intelligence systems, the defense minister went on to say. And now Lavrov said today, this is Russia's foreign minister, that he noted that impunity is a good term for what has been happening in Ukraine, not since February, but since 2014, when the US-backed nationalists and neo-Nazis overthrew the democratically elected government by force. No one has ever been held responsible for the murders on the Maidan Square, the burning of peaceful protesters in Odessa, or the assassination of dissidents. We did. It's right here in your Trends Journal. Spring 2014. Word for word for word. Word for word for word. Washington is driving the world to the final war. By Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. We write about how they were building up to this with the Socioeconomics, wanting the people to stay out of Russia. The security threat is highest than it's ever been in the history of the Olympic Games, blurted veteran security consultant Bill Rathburn. This was Yahoo News. In my opinion, it's not a matter of whether there will be some incident at the Olympics. It's just a matter of how bad it's going to be. Again, history before it happens. What Lavrov is saying, we said, people don't know these facts. They don't know how the Ukraine has not stuck by the Minsk agreement, bombs away over the Donbass region, killing some 15,000 of people there. None of that's reported. None of it's reported that the agreement between Gorbachev, when the Soviet Union broke up, was that, quote, NATO would not move 1 inch further. And now there's, from 16 now, there are 30 NATO countries. Yep. The West left Moscow with no choice but to launch a special military operation, and it created and nurtured, quote, a Russia-phobic neo-Nazi regime in Kiev, and sent weapons into Ukraine in order to turn it into a springboard for containing Russia, the foreign minister explained. The goals of the operation are protect the population of Donbass, meaning theirs, eliminating threats to Russia's security, and the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine. All of them remain relevant and will be achieved no matter how long it takes, he said today. And now you could go see all the news about the Germans that were in Ukraine. They're, I think it's NTV, and they have shots of Ukraine tanks with Nazi symbols on them. This is not made up stuff. U.S. bombs Somalia, says 17 al-Shabaab fighters killed. United States could bomb anywhere, any place, get them al-Shabaabs. Gotta go get them. Gotta go get them. We're America. We could go anywhere and kill anybody in any country, and we've got the record. And since World War II, you like the Vietnam War? Nah, you like both Iraq wars. I love the Afghan war. Give me the Syrian war. How about the Libyan war? What about the Yemen war? So there we are. What hypocrisy. People swallowing the bullshit. Again, I'm totally against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Totally. And I totally understand why it happened. And most people repeat the bullshit that they hear from the media. As Richard Nixon said, another murderous prick, may he rot in hell with his Vietnam War, keeping it going. Americans don't believe anything until they see it on TV. And that's where they see it and they hear it. Right from the prostitutes, media whores that get paid to put out by their corporate pimps and their government whoremasters. Do what you can to support Occupy Peace, occupypeace.com. Or the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice, freedompeacejustice.com. Can you imagine we got the domain name Freedom, Peace, Justice in 2021? That shows you how the world doesn't care about freedom, peace, and justice because no one's talking about it. No big peace movements. So please do what you can to support us because you're supporting yourself. Every penny we get, we use. You're supporting yourself. Can you imagine living in Ukraine and everything being destroyed around you? And now this war ratcheting up, and Biden saying we'll fight for Taiwan if China tries to take it over. Oh, and that clown boy Blinken bullshitting out that we're going to keep fighting. Oh, we're going to keep fighting? Oh, go lead the charge, Junior. What's this we bullshit? You're not going to go fight. Not the senator's son. They never fight. So here we are. We're in a very, very serious situation. World War III has begun. And if we don't end it, it's going to be hell on earth. Thanks for tuning in. And please don't forget to watch my podcast with Judge Andrew Napolitano yesterday because it's all about war. Thanks for tuning in. And please do the best you can to do the best you can. From COVID war to Ukraine war to world war. Are you prepared for what's next? These are unprecedented times. What's next? What's going to happen? Read the Trends Journal. We have an unsurpassed track record of forecasting history before it happens. Subscribe to the Trends Journal. Read history before it happens. From the world leader in trend forecasting.